morning, everybody, and welcome. Am I tilted? I feel a little tilted. Maybe not. Maybe just an angle. It doesn't matter. Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Dice Tower. I'm Tom Vasel, and now I am tilted, right? Now I'm straight. Maybe it's me. Anyhow, I'm Tom Vasel, and welcome to Q&A here at the Dice Tower. So this has been a week and a half, right? So last week was Gen Con. And so at Gen Con, we had a fantastic time. And it went superbly well until the end. Then various people either got sick or a hurricane hit Florida. So what happened with the hurricane hitting Florida was that it missed Miami, for which we're very thankful, but it hit the north of Florida. And then when we saw that, we realized that for those of us driving back in the van, we were driving directly across the path of the hurricane. So we left early so that we could drive all the way basically to the East Coast and then drive down the East Coast of America. And so then we did some switching around. Flights were canceled. So currently, here in the office, it's me, Roy, and Chris. That's it. Kenny is in town. Emery, Wendy, Joey, Z, Camilla are all stuck in Indianapolis. Of course, Mike is already in Indianapolis. So, it's a lot of folks who are up there, and some of them are coming down tonight, hopefully, and we'll see what happens as the week goes by. So, if you have any questions, I'm here to talk about them. We're glad we made it in. Let me see. I did not see the Mistborn deck building game at all, so I have no comments on it at all. Sorry. What America board game convention would be the best gameplay experience for a tourist? I don't know. I mean, what are you touring for? Like, if you're just there to play games, like, I wouldn't go to Essen as a tourist because I go there to meet publishers I can't meet anywhere else as a person. But I wouldn't say come to Gen Con, unless you want to see all the different American publishers that you might not see over in Europe or wherever you might be from. I would just pick a place you wanted to go to as a tourist, pick a city, and then find a convention that's close to that city. That's what I would do. Have I been watching the Batman Cape Crusader Prime show? I have not. I don't even know what it is. Have I played the new Heroescape yet? We will be playing the new Heroescape live this week here on our channel Friday morning. Are there any Bucky snacks left from the road trip? Well, I do have some beef jerky left, yes. What was my favorite booth at Gen Con? Well, if I'm allowed to say my own, then it's my own booth. I was really happy with our booth. It's the biggest booth we ever had. We had a great time. Seeing other people's booths, like what's the booth I like the best? The Op had a second level, so that was pretty cool. Maybe the Ops booth, I guess. What's a good entry-level job at a board game company? What skills would I need? Well, I don't think board game companies aren't necessarily, for the most part, entry-level positions. It's not like, ooh, get your way in and then work your way up. What are you working towards? What do you want to do? Like, if you want to be a game designer, then start designing games and showing them to publishers. If you want to be an artist, start making art and pitching that. If you want to just work for a board game company, be in logistics or not, you can apply to various board game companies, whether it's marketing or logistics, but I don't think this question is a very accurate question. Go to a convention, start volunteering for people. You do a really good job, they might hire you later on. Did I notice any trends at Gen Con? Yeah, there's definitely a trend that at Gen Con, people definitely were buying more on Thursday than ever before. I thought the hall on Thursday felt more crowded than Saturday. As for trends for people buying games, people seem to be across the board just buying anything that was quote-unquote hot, regardless of theme. What happened with Meg and Alex? They behaved strangely at the awards. No, they were just trying to put on a good thing there. I did a panel with Alex the next day, actually. Me and Alex had a fun panel, so I don't think that was strange at all. Are you a fan of the Olympics? I'm a semi-fan of the Olympics. I don't watch it or keep track of it all the time, but I've seen a lot of different things. I know about the. It seems like story after story after story keeps coming out of the Olympics, whether it's gymnastics or the shooting or what have you. Lots of interesting things. I find that to be cool. Aside from the Dice Tower booth, where would you say you spent most of your time at Gen Con? Well, the most of my time at Gen Con was spent in my bed in the hotel room. But I'm assuming you mean my awake time. There was no real specific spot that I spent time. There was no booth or anything that I spent time. I was always constantly moving, going around, talking, looking at different things. What's my favorite tie clip pin? I have a tie clip that is a fork and a spoon. That's my favorite one. Were you surprised by any of the Dice Tower award winners? Well, I'm not surprised at the ceremony itself. I'm one of the few people, there's just a few people who know the winners ahead of time. We need to know them ahead of time because we need to be prepared for them to go off. But it's just a few people who know that. So I'm not particularly surprised. If the question is, are you surprised when they happen? I'm always a little surprised at some things. There's a couple awards I thought might go a different way. Yeah, that's about the extent of that. Best improvement or fix from last year's Gen Con? I gotta say, they felt pretty similar. Because last year, I would say the biggest fix was moving the food trucks outside. I will say it was kind of a pain in the neck to get to those food trucks. That hallway between them was very, very crowded. I think the electronic ticketing was better this year. Maybe. We had a better booth. But overall, and again, there may be things that Gen Con has put into play that I don't know about. So I can't speak to saying things are better or not. I thought it seemed to run pretty well. It just felt very similar to last year. On a personal level, I had a very good time there, but I don't know what changes there was. I'm sure there's changes and things I'm forgetting and something, but definitely felt good. What was the best thing I ate this weekend? I had a lot of fast food, that's for sure, because we were driving and just could not stop when we were on our way back. So Saturday night, as part of the weekend, had some Greek food, and it was incredible. Has Fantasy Flight Games become primarily a card game publisher? It was sad to not see any board games in the in-flight report. Well, technically, they briefly in the in-flight report mentioned Twilight Imperium. I agree, it was a pretty lackluster in-flight report. By pretty lackluster, I mean it was incredibly lackluster. A good chunk of the report was just GameGenic talking about their products. They talked about Star Wars Unlimited, which I love, so I was interested in that. They talked about Marvel Champions briefly. It just wasn't that. It's just not like it used to be. And I know that's definitely a case of the old. It used to be better back in the day, but I don't know. I didn't find there to be anything particularly compelling about it that they couldn't have made in a 5-minute announcement. Was this one of your top 3 Gen Cons? Well, that's a good question. I don't know. Possibly. I had a really good time. I was very, very busy, but I'm always busy, so I'm just used to that. Maybe. Any new food truck discoveries? No, because I wasn't able to get over there very often, so I did not discover any new food trucks. Any big news or announcements coming out of Gen Con? Stuff coming out of Gen Con. I know Dire Wolf announced a new expansion for Dune Imperium that will work with Dune Imperium and Dune Imperium Uprising. And there was probably some other announcements made there, but nothing earth-shattering that I know of. Which board game would you make an Olympic event? I would not. Is there any gameplay changes to Comic-Con, or is it translated print? As far as I know, it's pretty much the same game. What was the best part of Gen Con this year? It was our Well, the best part of Gen Con for us was the award show. I was so thrilled with how well that went. It was exciting. It was interesting. It was funny. I told people who asked me, I have two things I want to bring to Dice Tower Awards. I want to bring a sense of gravitas to the awards, and I wanted it also to not be boring. And I want everyone there to have a good time, and it seemed to go well. I'm really thrilled with the Dice Tower Awards. I'm a little disappointed that a lot of the board game media ignores the Dice Tower Awards. I feel like we're trying to make them become something, and sometimes I would like people to talk about them, and people do talk about them and stuff, but uh, we we're not always picked up or carried by different news organizations, even if I send them a press release. So I mean, I wish that we will be taken more seriously. That's my goal, is to continue to work on that. But the publishers take us seriously. They all showed up, so that was very nice. And we had a lot of people come. And so if you came, I'm glad you came. I hope I had a chance to quickly say hi at least. Um, did you buy any tea? I did buy some tea, and in fact, I drank some of that tea this morning. I forget what it was, but it was some sort of apricot caloric, I guess is the right word. Sorry, caloric tea. Very delicious. It was really good, actually. Did I like the difference in the booth size and location? 100 times, yes. Both the size, we doubled in size, but the location was amazing. Did I check out Altered at all? I did not. I walked by the booth a couple times and briefly looked at it. I'll just wait till we get it when it comes out. Connor, you're asking what games I'm excited about coming out this year. We do a top 10 at the beginning of the year. Other than that, I'm happy about games that are coming out now. I mean, I get a little excited about games that come out in the future, but for the most part, I'm interested in stuff I can play now. Thank you for the nice words people are saying. Let's see here. What's the most exotic thing you saw at Gen Con? I don't even know what that means. Bruce says if anyone's in the Cincinnati area, Mike and Z should be at Capstone playing games today. That's not true. Just as a heads up, I don't think that was able to happen. So some stuff came up, so they're not able to make it there today. I'm sorry, folks, but we'll try to schedule something like that in the future. Katie says, excellent work to all those who worked in the award show. I want to say thank you to that. On a personal level, I put the award show basic structure together. Roy does all the background stuff, and Chris helps him with that. Eric does the voice work and is the MC of the show and wrote the beginning and just keeps everything on track and running. Jason works to get those trophies done and get the labels done for the trophies and knows who's grabbing each award and does a lot of work in that regard. And then all the different presenters came out and did an excellent job. And then, of course, thanks to the Gen Con event team, the audio guys helped us out a lot, and then the guys who recorded it. So just a lot of appreciation all around. Did I play any games at Gen Con? I played maybe 4. Let's see, I played 1 on, Tuesday. Nope, Tuesday night I played 1. I'm being vague on what I played. I'm sorry. That's just the way it's going to be. Tuesday night I played 1. Wednesday night I played 1. Thursday I played none. Friday I played at our Kickstarter party. I played like 4. So that was a lot. Saturday morning I played Things and Rings. Not really played it. I'm kind of demoing it, but I guess that counts. Didn't play any other games Saturday. Sunday, didn't play any games. We had to get going. Oh, no, I played Gnome Hollow in the morning, so I played 1 there. So that's the games I played. Not a ton, but I'll play some games now. Hello, Tom. I played Invincible, the hero building game, twice last week. It's good, isn't it? Was there any game that surprised you? No, people keep asking me that, and that's again, it's mostly because most stuff is announced ahead of time. DJ Dan says my only tip here about the awards was that the microphone was too quiet. Again, it's almost so. If you ever watch the Oscars, you will notice there is audio mess ups there, and they have millions of dollars that's being thrown into that, and the best technical teams in the world. And if they can't do it, it's hard for us to do it. And here's the problem: you could do shows that are streamed live. That's what we do here in the studio. We are doing something for you to watch live, and that's a lot of work. You can do shows for a crowd, an entertainment crowd, and those are a lot of work. To do both is very difficult. To do a live show with a live audience that's watching and have the audio work well for them and work well for streaming it live, it's just such a thing. I'm happy that we got any quality at all out of it. It's that much of a pain to do because it's two different things that you're doing at the same time. You know, you'll have people listening in the room, and people complain every time. But my only response is if you really want to hear it at its best and how good it can be, you got to come to it live. But can we release a studio production of Eric's opening song for download? Well, I don't know. We'll see. Do you think Gen Con needs to rethink the layout? We start referring to the 25 to 3000s as the depths of Hades. It was so difficult to move in those aisles. The reason that it's difficult to move from 25 to 30 at Gen Con is because there's less open booths over there. So the big booths want to be closer to the other side of the hall or closer to the front. And big booths who pay a lot of money will have open areas in their booth, which by very nature makes the hall more open. The last people to get booths are people in 25 to 30. And so every spot there is a 10 by 10 or a 10 by 20, all jammed up on top of each other. So there's no room to move. That's why it's more crowded over there. I was able to ask Jody, but the video on top 10 adventure games where no one said Talisman. Have you played Talisman? I have played Talisman. Talisman would not make my top 100 adventure games, even though I have not played 100 adventure games. I do not like Talisman. I do not think Talisman is a good game. But if you love it, that's fantastic. And I know a lot of people like it because they keep reprinting it time and time again. So that's great. But it is not one that I enjoy at all. What do I like better, Star Wars Unlimited or Star Wars the deck building game? Star Wars Unlimited for sure. Dean says, my backpack today has Invincible, the hero building game, Adventureland, Trio, and Far Away for game night. That's pretty good. That's a good haul there. I see the Essen Hall layout has been released. Are you happy with your booth location? I am thrilled with my booth location, as long as I'm correct at knowing what it is. I'm pretty sure we are in Hall 3, pretty close to the exact same spot we were last time, and I love that. Which is better, beat the 8 ball or beat the Hurricane home? Whew. Well, beating the Hurricane home was it was a different experience. I don't normally drive. We left Gen Con. From us leaving Gen Con to us arriving home was 23 straight hours. We didn't stop anywhere to stay. That was our plan. We were going to drive for a while, then get a place to stay, and then come home Monday. So we kept going. It was fun. You know, we stopped twice to eat. We stopped immediately after we got in the car. We stopped at the McDonald's just to grab something, eat pretty quickly, and then go. I didn't eat in the van, but we only were in McDonald's for like 15 minutes or so, just because I don't like having all that garbage in the van, and also you don't want to distract the driver while they're eating. So we did that. We jumped in the van. We went. We switched drivers. It was Chris, Kenny, and Roy and me, and they drove most of the trip. I don't particularly like driving. I drove a good chunk at the end. But overall, we switched drivers, and people tried to sleep a little bit, but we also usually there's one person who's staying awake to keep the driver awake too. And so it went pretty well, but it was a long trip. What game from Gen Con are you most looking forward to playing and reviewing? Oh, that's easy. That would be Clank Legacy 2. We saw the whole Dice Tower crew except for you. Oh, I'm sorry. I was all over the place. I was at the booth a lot. If you ever want to catch me at the booth, it's usually easy to catch me at the very opening of the show. I'm always there on Thursday morning. Of course, people run by our booth then. But if you ever want to see Dice Tower, that's the best time. But that's also time people are running for games. I was there for Friday, too. I thought the event hall was pretty full this year. It was more difficult this year to find empty tables when I needed to take a load off for a few minutes. Yeah, and I don't think that's what tables are for necessarily either in the exhibit hall. You know, I know that people want to sit down, but I would be kind of irritated if I was there trying to demo a game and someone sat down and they're like, I'm just here to rest. I'll be like, well, that's great, but can you rest at someone else's booth maybe? It's tough. It's a big hall. I would leave the hall and sit down if I was just visiting. You just walk out the hall and just rest outside. I was overwhelmed by this year's crowd. Will I be overwhelmed by Spiel? Yes, they feel pretty much exactly the same. Any hint from Days of Wonder for a Ticket to Ride 20th Anniversary Edition? I have not heard anything to that end. Did you check out or buy any RPGs? I got a few things, but I wasn't getting RPGs. I was just looking for supplements. I got a few things I'm going to mess with a bit. Tom, you said you don't like holographic cards. What if the holographic part is only on part of the card, like a fireball cast from Wizard? I love those, actually. I don't like when the whole card's holographic because it's hard for me to read it. Also, I love artwork and I want to see it, but like little bits of art that's been, colorized like that, I think that's amazing. Did I get a chance to stop by the annex? I did not. Were you hesitant for Roy to win the best strategy game with Last Light? It was not best strategy. It was best new designer. Just worried about perceived bias? Sure, I worried about perceived bias, but I worried about it for a brief moment in time. Here's the thing. Anybody who thinks that we're showing bias in this regard is going to think that regardless. I did not vote. I put the categories together. I ran the voting, well, along with help with Jason and Brett Sanderson. Kept an eye on everything, and it was honest and true. I mean, if you think about it, Last Light didn't make the top 10 for Game of the Year. In fact, this was the only category it was nominated in. And that's what happened. It was nominated. It won. I thought, well, some people aren't going to love this, but we can't just start taking out everyone. There's more and more people involved with the Dice Tower all the time. And I can't take out every game that those people are involved with. So it is what it is. Does Eric Summer have an actor musical past? Well, he is a voice actor for one, and he did some of that stuff definitely in college, and does I think some with his church. What's the crew's favorite snacks to receive while at the booth? I don't know. We got a lot of candy this year. That was nice. Where did all that candy go? Did my kids take it? Where's the candy? I know we have candy. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I think at the end of the day, we're happy to get snacks. We don't eat a lot of snacks at the booth anyway, so anything we can take home with us is what we look for normally. Although someone once brought pie by us, and that was amazing. Whose booth do you think was the most impressive? Well, the op had a second level, so that was cool. I'm not Fantasy Flight, Asmodee built like a little town, a building. It looked like a Disneyland building in theirs. eBay always builds some big thing, but I've kind of given up on the eBay booth maybe a little bit. I go, it's basically just about collectible cards for Magic. Game One Games has theirs that look like a castle, so that's neat. Those are the ones that I think are most impressive. Did Gen Con spark any inspiration? Yes. Perhaps a new game design? No. Can you show us any of the art you picked up? That's a good question. I took it, it's already at my house. I took it home immediately. We have a couple pieces here that I left at the studio. They're somewhere out there, but most of it I took home. I'm going to put it up tonight at my house. Will you consider going back to the UK Games Expo? Well, I consider going anywhere. It just doesn't work into our schedule. I can't not do videos here all the time. I mean, I could go to cons all the time, but I have to be judicious with my time. Will we ever see marble races on this channel again? Yes. Sad that the Yacht booth aren't opening their viewing area up above, but I get it. It's their office. Sure, and there's also going to be some, I'm sure, you want litigation. You don't want someone tripping down those steps. Hopefully they do more pinball machines like the Everdell one. Well, there is lots of pinball machines. That pinball alley there was fantastic. You did get a lot of candy. Yes, I did, Josh. Thank you. Sorry, I'm just looking for some more questions here. What are your thoughts on the second edition of Marvel Legendary Core? I talked to him about it briefly. It doesn't sound like it's a huge change, just some minor changes, but it's always good to bring fresh blood into a mix of game like that. Why Heart Manatees be getting a review soon? Possibly. Me and my kids have played it, so you might see a review from us. Will we be doing a Dice Tower show again at Spiel? No. And I'll tell you why. Because I just looked it up. I just did some into it. And it would cost 5,600 euros. That's how much they would charge us to run a show. Folks, I can't pay that much to put on a show for you all. And someone might say, well, you could charge tickets for it. But with 500 people, that would be 12 euros a ticket. And then what if we don't sell them all? We're still losing money. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to make money on doing a show, but I also don't want to lose money on doing the show. Coming to the Spiel is already a lot of work, a lot of energy, and a lot of stuff going on. That would be tricky. How many actual steps did you take at Gen Con? Some of your phone was tracking that. Let me see. How do you track steps on a phone here? I think it's health. Browse. Is it mobility? Past 7 days. I use an app called Pacer. The reason I'm not struggling to figure out is I use Pacer, but I haven't paid for Pacer in a while, so it just tells me my steps today. But can anyone tell me, maybe, I know there's like a free app on here somewhere. Maybe it's under activity. There it is, steps. Never mind, I found it. So Sunday was only 7,500 steps, because that was at 7,500 steps, we jumped in the van and kept driving. Saturday, 1,700 steps. Friday, 1,600. Thursday, 1,800, almost 1,900. And Wednesday, 1,600. And then Tuesday was only 10,000 steps. But I definitely got my steps in last week. There we go. Why Distilled is in the Dice Tower Game of the Year nomination? Because it was nominated. I don't know what the question is here. What's your favorite alien to play in Cosmic Encounter? Just look up my top 10 aliens. I think some more aliens have been added since then, but it's not going to change dramatically. Go check out that list. Was there any game at Gen Con that you lost interest in after seeing or playing it? Possibly, but I didn't play many games there. And so I don't think that happened with the playing. Seeing, maybe? I don't think so, though. Have you painted all of Marvel United? To be clear, I've painted none of Marvel United. I am not a good painter, or a painter at all. Do we have any new space games on the horizon? It seems like the last few years have really pumped the brakes on that theme. I have no idea if we're living in different worlds, but there is tons of space games that come out all the time. So, and more on the horizon, I'm sure of it. Are my kids also interested in joining cons? I don't think so. I took them. I take them to. I took them to the big anime con here in Miami, and they liked going there. But when they were done, they were done. How loud are board game conventions in general? Depends on how low the roof is. Board game conventions can be loud. Are there noisier and quiet areas? Sure. You want a quiet area at a con? Go to some of the smaller rooms. Like at Gen Con, there's all kinds of small rooms. Those rooms are always quieter to get into. When do the kids go back to college? I currently only have one daughter in college, and she's already there. She works there over the summer. She will be starting in a week or two. And then I have two daughters. I have three. Well, no, I have six daughters. I have three who are at home in school. One of those will be graduating and going to college next year, starting in 25. I have one who's married, one who is engaged, one in college, and then three at home, like I said, and then my son. Did you get a copy of Witching Hour, the box of past con exclusive promos for Marvel United? I did. Are you still playing Marvel Snap? I am not. At some point, I stopped playing it and just never went back. What's my favorite die or dice I purchased at Gen Con? I mostly just got Chessex dice, so it would be them. Did you get a chance to check out the next Crossroads game from Plaid Hat? I looked at it briefly, but I didn't do much. Folks, if a game is not out yet, I always look at them very, very briefly, and I wait till they come out before I jump on them. Just for fun, have you ever thought about reorganizing the library by average Dice Tower Board Game Geek rating? I have never once thought that. Ever. Was there a game at Gen Con you didn't buy that you now wish you had? I don't think so. I don't usually get that concerned about that sort of thing. Lucas Oil is always pretty quiet at Gen Con. That's true. Even though it's a stadium, going in there, because it's so big and because the ceiling is so vastly high, it definitely has a more muted sound than the rest of the convention. At the Spiel Essen, there are lots of booths also for kids and play areas. Is that the case of Gen Con? It is not. There's not as much stuff at the Spiel as people say. There's that one main hallway out there, the gallery. And then outside the gallery, not a ton of stuff for kids. There's definitely kid booths and things like that. And there's definitely more than Gen Con. Was surprised to hear you mention Delicious and Dungeon recently. I read the manga last year and it's fantastic. Have you finished the first season? We did. Someone, I forget what it was. I was just kind of randomly looking through Netflix, saw it, thought it was a funny theme. I started watching the first episode, and halfway through I said, I got to show this to my family. And I did, and it is across the board. My family as a groups, I think it's one of our favorite things to watch together as a family. Right now, we're having a grand old time watching Time Bandits, the new show on Apple. It is silly, 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 but it is so much fun. We're just having a good time watching that. Are Ruby and Violet interested in attending Gen Con or Essen? I doubt it. I haven't invited them either, but I don't think so. Any thoughts on why there are so few James Bond IP games? Seems like a gold mine of content. Maybe. I don't know. IPs aren't always a gold mine of content. You got, what's the game about? There's some. I mean, the Op made, not the Op, Upper Deck made the Unlimited series. There was some James Bond stuff, but I don't know. It was very surreal to see you and the crew stop at the El Nopal that my parents used to eat at weekly. Well, that was just randomness. We were on our way through Indiana, and I said, it looks like there's not any restaurants for a long time here, so if we need to stop now. And we were in the mood for Mexican, and I said, well, here's a Mexican restaurant. Let's just try it out and see. And we went in, and I said, well, let's not eat a lot because, we can eat later. And the prices weren't that expensive, so I figured it was small amounts. I ordered tacos. I ordered 3 tacos, and it was basically like fajitas. They brought so much food. It was delicious and good. And we really should just put that on our schedule to stop there next time. Am I looking forward to Slay the Spire 2 coming to Steam? I can wait. And do you think they'll make a board game of this one? Yeah, maybe. What percentage of Dice Tower viewers have been engaged with the Dice Tower for over a decade? I have no idea how I would know that information. I've never been to a convention until Gen Con this year. How does the open gaming room at the JW compare to Dice Tower East? I never did go to the open gaming area at the JW, so I don't know. I hear it's good. There's no way it's as good as Dice Tower East. And that's all Dice Tower East is. Chess boxing is a real sport. Yes, I know. What modern game and sport would you want to combine that would be the most interesting to watch? I'm sure this is a fun exercise in your head. I just have no interest in doing this. Just pick two random things that'd be funny to talk about, but I don't have any desire to see it. I would watch chess boxing out of some sort of, interest in seeing what it is, but I wouldn't get that involved with it. Time Bandits, is there any connection to the movie? Yeah. It's the same thing basically, although they changed a lot of it. It's done in a very silly manner. One of the main characters, bad with actresses' names sometimes, but as the person who played Phoebe on Friends, the boy who is the main character, I think does a phenomenal job, and they have different bit characters. It's just I don't know. I laugh out loud every episode multiple times so far. I've enjoyed it. It's on Apple. Kindly give advice on how to persuade people to play board games. This is how you do it. You say, hey, I have this cool board game that I think I picked this topic that I know you like, and I think you'd be interested. And they say, I don't really want to play board games. And I say, okay, no worries. What else can we do? That is the end. The end. Story over. Movie finishes. I'm not going to keep begging them to play board games. Maybe I might ask someone twice later. I'm like, I really think you'd like this. But if someone doesn't want to play board games, I'm not trying to persuade them to do it. I'll show it to them. If they're not interested, I move on. Have I watched the Enola Holmes movies on Netflix? I only saw the first one. I thought it was okay. I didn't love it as much as my kids loved it. I just thought it was okay. Lisa Kudrow. That's right. Thank you. Can we get a quick layout for the rest of the year in regards to cons and spectaculars? Well, in a few weeks, we're going to Dice Tower Retreat. A few weeks after that, we're going to be at the World Series of Board Gaming. The week after World Series of Board Gaming, we'll be at Essen. After Essen, I will be in November. I will be at Simancon in Thailand. And, next week at AirCon, Z, Camilla, and Mike will be at AirCon. That's next week. And then in December, we'll be doing our Winter Spectacular. That's our upcoming schedule. What changes do you think Time Stories could make to have a comeback and be relevant again? I don't know. I mean, they tried Time Stories 2 and they changed some things, but not enough that I thought it was worth it. I don't know what I would recommend for them to revamp the whole series. When will we see the next episode in the Four Coin series? I don't know because, well, this week, not everyone's in town, and not everyone's in town next week either. So maybe the following week we'll have to wait and see. Have you fallen into the TCG rabbit hole because of the Star Wars Unlimited? I have. What is your favorite deck and why? I don't know if I have any favorite deck. I just pick random decks and play them. What was the game you had the most fun playing? In my life? You need to clarify that question. Do you remember most of the game rules that you will bring to game session? Do you mean like any game session? The answer to that would be no, because most games I learn on the spot. I don't recommend that people do that. What advice could you give to someone who has no way of trying a game out before purchasing with a little income? Oh, then I would watch playthroughs online. I would. There's so much information about games. Just read as much as you can. Go look at stuff. Go look for a game that catches your interest. Watch people play it is the best way. I haven't seen you do a review of Deliverance. I have not played it. Brian Drake reviewed it on our channel, which then puts it a little bit lower in priority for me because that means it's already been reviewed on the channel. So we try other things. I do plan to give it a try at some point, but I can't tell you when. Where do you get your glasses that change frames all the time again? This is from Pear Eyewear, Eyewear. I really should probably have a code to give people because I think I get, money off on a purchase if someone buys through me. Oh, well. What characters am I looking forward to using on DC United the most? I don't know. I'll have to see. Bizarre looked fun. And which character do you think they would add but didn't? Didn't put any thought into that at all. Sorry. Do you think the top 100 BGG board games are worth buying? Yes. What about the ones that are not in the top 100? Yes. I can't tell you what to buy. You need to put in the effort. You need to put in the research and find which games are best for you. People ask me this all the time. They're like, what game should I get? Like, I'm not your personal game sommelier. You need to figure out what games you'll like. Now, here at Dice Tower, we'll do our best to give you information. We'll tell you what we think our favorite game from the year is. But just because it's my favorite game doesn't mean it will be yours. Are there any plans to have the crew live stream from Aircon? We do not have that set in play. Do you remember what game brought you into the hobby? It was a series of games. But if you watch the history of the Dice Tower, you can find more information about that. How's the conversion of the back patio coming? Well, it hasn't even started. We haven't even got anywhere on that one. That was kind of a stretch goal that we did not reach in the Kickstarter, so I would need to get money to do it first. How do I choose the board games that will be on the Dice Tower channel? We just all pick games that we're interested in reviewing, and we review them. We try to review as many as we can. There are a lot out there, and we do our best. What's your take on sleeving games? Is it worth it? If it's that big of a deal to you, I personally despise playing with sleeves. I like non-sleeved games. But I do realize when you play a game a gazillion times, it does get beat up, and maybe you want to protect your cards. Hi, Tom. Could we do a top 10 of games that should have desperately could use an expansion? No. I think it would bring up some old games yesteryears that could potentially bring new life to them. No. If a game, some games need expansions, I suppose, but it's not a top 10 I'm really interested in making. Honestly, if a game needs an expansion and it's not worth playing without the expansion, then getting expansion is not going to help it that much. What got you into collecting hats, and how many do you currently have? I have a lot of hats, but most of my hats I get just because I want to have a hat that matches my outfit. I'm not necessarily collecting hats. I don't like to keep hats that I don't wear. Is there anything about the retreat this year that you're particularly excited about? Nope, just glad to be playing games with my friends. What 2024 game have you played the most? Probably Star Wars Unlimited. Have you ever been overwhelmed with the vast amount of board games out there? Oh, yeah, sure. There is so many. It's hard. Look how many, if you watched our Gen Con haul just earlier today, look how many came in there. That's just 1 week of games that has come in. That's a ton. But you just have to come to the conclusion you can't play everything. It's funny because people have FOMO on my behalf. They'll say, when are you going to play this game? I'm like, I haven't played it. I don't know that I ever will get to it. Oh, but you got to play it. Well, guess what, folks? You don't got to play any game. Otherwise, each year, someone new coming to the hobby will have just the worst life ever. because we'll be like, well, guess what? I hate to tell you, but there's 20,000 games you need to play to catch up. No, that's insanity. Um, are you planning to watch the new Beetlejuice? Yeah, probably. Is the wall of hats we saw on the award show real? It is real. That's actually where I keep my hats. I have some right here in this studio. There's 6 hats on the wall there, but the vast majority of my hats are on that wall. And then I keep a couple on top of my cabinet at home in case there. And I keep one in both cars as an emergency hat. I played 121 different board games this year so far. So I don't keep track of that. I I keep track of how many different one of 2024 games I played this year. So right now, and this is not counting Gen Con information, I have played 142 different games this year from 2024. I would say probably another 100 that were from 2023 or earlier. Any thoughts on location-based promos? I understand the reasoning, but wish there was an easier way for Europeans than paying hundreds of dollars on eBay. Is there any secret promo markets? Look, at the end of the day, promos are promos. You just need to get over your FOMO. You just don't need to have everything. There are things I can't get in life. There's lots of things I can't get in life. There was some new, I love Star Wars Unlimited, right? There was some new promos for Star Wars Unlimited that they released at Gen Con. You had to be the first 200 people to sign up for something or other to get them. I did not get them. I would very much like to have them. But you know what? I mean, I could get them, I suppose, if I went to eBay and paid vast amounts of money. In fact, let's see how much people are ripping people off for them online. Let me pull this up here. Doo-ba-doo-ba-doo. eBay. So, Gen Con, Star Wars Unlimited. All right, so the whole box of them, an exclusive card pack, they're selling for $325. There's these little Grogu cards, but those they were giving away to everybody. It's the whole little Star Wars Unlimited pack. There's one for $485. I'm surprised some people haven't taken those packs apart and are selling them card by card, but I guess you need the whole pack. And there's not a lot of them, and you know what? They're only going to get more expensive. I think it's like 6 cards or something. But no, it might be 4 cards. I'm not sure. I think it's 6, but it doesn't matter. Here's the fact. You can get it if you want it. You want promos that you can't get somewhere? You can get them. But you don't need them. I would like those Star Wars promos. I'm not going to get them. I'm not going to pay that amount of money for them. And I'm okay. I really am. It's okay. You can't get to everything. You can't play everything. Not a problem. You just got to get to that point. If you have FOMO, it's not the fault of the people who are making that stuff because they're going to exploit it all the way. Just, you got to get over it. Emergency hat. I guess you really don't want people seeing your hair. Well, I just like wearing hats outside. Like in the Florida weather, a hat is useful. It's useful when it's sunny. It's useful when it's raining. It's always useful. So I just like having one in the car. If I go out, I like to wear a hat. And I don't wear a hat around the house. I don't wear a hat here at the studio here, except when I'm doing a video like this. So if I jump in the car to go somewhere, like, oh, I need a hat. Oh, good thing. There's one in the back seat. Was it brought up about the fact that Lords of Waterdeep doesn't have a reprint when deciding to include it in the Hall of Fame? No, but why would you'll have to explain to me why that would affect if something goes in the Hall of Fame or not? I don't hear it mentioned much anymore. Do you still partner with Game Nerds, who introduced me to them from the Dice Tower channel and haven't seen them in a while? Anyway, Nerds Day is almost here. No, Game Nerds has decided not to advertise on the Dice Tower any longer. It doesn't mean they're not a bad place to go to. I still think they're a great place to go find a game for, so go check them out. Sure. They're just not an advertising partner with the Dice Tower, at least at this present moment. If you're playing a new game multiple times a night, do you take notes on thoughts in between plays, or is it just at the end of the night and next day? Probably just at the end of the night. I don't take notes at all. I just put it in my head. Did I actually end up throwing the mac and cheese, ketchup, and jello game in the trash? 100% I threw that away. Yes. If you had to live in an apartment building, 4, 1, 2, or 3, 1 for sure. Why would you want to live anywhere else? I mean, it might matter what country or what location I'm in. If I'm near, like, if I'm in the Keys, I might pick the second floor. Um, but I like being on the first one. That way, if my kids run around, the people underneath us won't complain. And it's have to climb steps to get to your house. There was not the same Lorcana buzz this year as there was last year. They didn't release anything new at the con. Is an area of board gaming or content creation that you feel the Dice Tower is missing or should include in the future? If I ever thought that, and I do often, I'll add it. I'm fine with missing promos that have barely any effect on the game, like all those Sagrada ones. Sure, but you should also be fine with missing ones that have effect on the game. Again, is the game good? It doesn't need the promo. The promo doesn't change your life or make the game that much better. And if it does, then almost any price should make it worth it for you. It's okay. You got to let promos go. This hunt for promos and this fascination with promos that people have to the point where they get angry when they can't get one, that's a you problem. You could argue that people are taking advantage of you, but it is a you problem. What is my favorite Dice Tower promo that's ever been made? Probably Chuck the Die for Arcadia Quest. How often would you say you go to the movies a month? Well, it's less than one, so it's a point something. I don't go to the movies that often. Do I have a Tilly hat? I don't actually know what that means. Let me look it up. Tilly hat. Oh, that's the... I might have one. I don't particularly love that hat. It's okay. What about the future of board games? Will we see interesting mechanisms? Yes, you will. I was talking to someone at Gen Con, I forget who it was, someone was mentioning, like, I think we're pretty much done. Just that doesn't make any sense to me. You can't just declare we're done with new stuff. There's always going to be new stuff that comes. At what age should you wear many hats? When I was a kid, I wore baseball caps all the time. I couldn't afford these hats. I actually always wanted a fedora, but didn't have them as a kid. Will the Hall of Fame get 2 new games each year, just as many as it has seen fit? Probably just as many as it has seen fit. 2 is a good number to bank on, but if there's only 1, if there's 3, there could be 0, right? We're not going to add games just because. So, in fact, we added games from 2012 this year. We could have added games from 2013. I mean, if we look, here, let me pull up, do an advanced search here, and we'll search from games from 2011 to 2014, because those are the games that will be eligible next year. I mean, any game is eligible, but I'll sort these by number of voters. And wow, Splendor is eligible next year. So is Patchwork. Sushi Go is eligible. Dead of Winter is eligible. Star Realms is eligible. Five Tribes is eligible. Sheriff of Nottingham is eligible. 10 years since that came out. Caverna. Avalon. Machikoro. Roll for the Galaxy. Orleans. There's a lot of games that would be eligible next year. And how do we decide? Well, we'll just talk and figure it out. I am indeed interesting. Which Dice Tower reviewer most often surprised you with their thoughts and feelings about games? You think they like a game, but they don't, and vice versa. It's different. They surprise me all the time, and that's okay. I know it's older and lighter, but can we get some love on new DC Comics deck building games expansions? I think a few of them are going to get reviewed here. Outside of Dice Tower, are there gaming conventions in Florida? There's definitely some smaller game conventions in Florida. There's Escape Winter Con that happens in Orlando. There's a party game convention, which I'm sorry, I forget the name of it, that happens in Jacksonville, and I'm sure there's other ones too that happen, but of large size, there's nothing that's the same size as Dice Tower East, but there's lots of smaller ones. Let's see. Big Game Bash. Well, that's more of a, just a hangout more than a convention. Do you still have the time to play the games you love just for your own pleasure? Yes. I mean, I really do. You always have the time to play the things you want for pleasure. You just got to make that time. Now, what most people don't realize that for me, playing new games is pleasurable. I love it so much. I love finding new games. It's exciting. It's interesting. I like playing old games. They're fun, and that's a cool thing to do. But I love playing new games and checking them out and finding new things and having discovery. That's just so much fun, and it's entertaining, and I love it. But I could go back and play old games whenever I want because I just simply have to make the time to do so. You just have to choose. That's all. Everyone Neighborhood hires lawn care and services. Do you cut your own grass and do the yard work? I do not. We have a paid service that comes in to do both the Dice Tower and my house. What would you say is the best dexterity game from an accessibility standpoint? That all depends on the accessibility needs because games are so different for sure. How does the Dice Tower Award voting work? So at the beginning of each year, everyone involved in the Facebook group, that we have a Facebook group of everybody, you can nominate games. Nominate as many as you want. We just have huge lists of nominations. We then vote on those nominations and pare them down. We then announce the games that are in the nominations list, and then I have people vote on those. You can vote in each category. You can vote for up to 3 games in each category. You rank them. The game that you rank the highest gets the most votes, and then those votes are all tallied, and then a game wins in each of the categories. Thanks for the later Q&A today. Well, no problem, but I probably won't often do them this late. When you learn new games, are you the type that's strict to the rules or loose? Always strict. Why would you be loose? Did I see any good shark items at the show? Nope, not even one. So there you have it. Alrighty, it's 12:58, so I'm going to end the Q&A here, folks. I will be back in, well, 1 hour. We're doing a live play of something. What will that something be? Guess you'll find out when you get here. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Tom Vasel, and I'm so glad some of you came by and said hi at Gen Con. We'll see you next time. Hey folks, thanks for watching another one of our videos. If you like our videos, if you like our channel, you would love to game with us at one of our conventions. Check out Dice Tower Cruise, Dice Tower East, and Dice Tower West. Fantastic conventions where we play games with wonderful people, a humongous library, and lots of other events and stuff. Also, don't forget to check out our channel, like and subscribe. I'm Tom Vasel.